All right. We got to see Skate, which had the little skit with Tim. And Skate's coming back, but it's in pre alpha, so don't think about it until the console playtest comes out.
Hold on, can I make a noise that's more audible? Pre alpha.
Mm-hmm.
I believe when I they said that, I said I have some pre for you, bitch, and or something like that. What a bunch of nonsense fucking words.
I appreciate Skate when like you have Tony Hawk as the high fun crazy soundtrack awesome game franchise, and then Skate's the more like street level simulator grind chalk the and wax the block type shit.
You're playing a guy. You're playing a 2 foot tall Oompa Loompa running around behind skateboarders with your fisheye lens at the skate level.
However, in the time since then, we've had games like Skate Burb and Skate Story, and hell, even parts of Thirsty Suitors where you skate around and do some grinding and shit. And the skate's place in this world is not as important as it once was.
It's not.
Because there were two, but now there are many.
They should, somebody in the chat lasered in on the fact that Skate 4 was announced before the pandemic started.
And we just haven't heard anything.
That's a while ago. And I feel like it's time to have another conversation of how long is too long to keep your game in development after you announced it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we can all agree that it's 5.5 years with nothing is too long.
And especially if you are on the tails of a Kickstarter promise, right?
Yeah.
I think we can open up the conversation a little bit, right? I think it's safe to say that Silksong has burned a lot of goodwill with its fan base at this point, and it sucks because what comes from an abundance of good and earnestness to deliver more game than anyone asks for,
like way over delivered for Hollow Knight, way over delivered
with such an affordable price for the amount you give, we actually start to see, I think, a flaw in like approaching games this way, where like I can think of times when back in the my college days, like I remember some incredibly talented artists that I knew and worked with that were so good, but so tortured by never being able to put it out because the perfectionism and the desire to just add a little more, to over render, to start from scratch, to just get it fucking perfect meant that every time you saw something they put out, it was unbelievable, but they were prisoners in their own heads in their ability to create and output something. And
producers do fulfill an important role in a modern day art piece, which is, I don't care, ship it. It's good enough.
Yeah. Now, depending on the state of where your game comes from, whether the crowdfunding is involved or not, and so on, changes whether you have obligations to communicate with people and keep them up to date on where you're at, what's going on, and if you are off track or on track. But I just think that like Team Cherry is like those good traits that made all those amazing things about Hollow Knight are the same kinds of traits that are probably keeping this in such a rough, weird, we don't know what's going on and it's taking forever, and now the hype has faded into people just typing delete the sub on the subreddit. And I mean, your ongoing bit notwithstanding, right? Where it's like, will it be at the Wholesome Games? Where will Silksong come out?
It's not a bit. I'm like,
kill it. Will the game ever deliver on the promise now? Like, is this just ghost song in our brains?
So I went down the rabbit hole last night, and because I knew we were going to talk about Silksong today and how long it's been and how silly it's been, and I wanted to reintroduce myself to the details to determine whether or not being mad or disappointed or however I feel about it
is warranted,
is silly or ridiculous or justified.
Okay.
So Step one is the 2014 Kickstarter for Hollow Knight, in which the last backer reward that people submitted for was a second playable character. Then the game came out in 2017, and that game was enormous, and then had huge DLC support that was all free, and it's probably my favorite Metroidvania, one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life, yada, yada, yada.
Important to note, I'd say, DLC that's stretch goals that were kickstarted for, but free for everyone who just bought the game.
Absolutely.
As is. So for some people, there's an obligation, and for others, it's free content.
But we're not even there yet in this breakdown, right? So then comes 2017 is when the game releases, and then there's a bunch of updates. So around 2018, it's like, and all the other updates are done, maybe 2019. It's like, okay, so where's the Hornet campaign though? Because that's like the part that like people really are excited for. Where's the Hornet campaign? And they kept saying it's coming. They do Kickstarter backer updates, like, we're really working on it, we want to make it something special. And then in 2019 they announced Silksong is going to be its own game, and that everybody who backed it and would be getting the DLC for free regardless, they're going to get Silksong for free through the Kickstarter, and that makes sense, right? But it's going to be a full game for everybody else, right? So one of the first arguments you could make is like, well, I bought Hollow Knight on the assumption that there would be a free DLC campaign with the second character. I don't think that's fair, because they massively over-delivered with the Grim Troop and the Gods and Bugs and all those other DLC expansions. I think that's a ridiculous complaint that I don't think anyone should take seriously. But now we're in 2019, right? And Silksong is announced and has no release date. And the first problem that happens is that at 2019, Nintendo shows off like a 25-minute demo for the game. I didn't know this. I found this yesterday, that there's a Nintendo Treehouse 20-minute long demo of Silksong.
Neither did I. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Okay.
With like it's two relatively small areas that they go through, but it is like, it's working, it's running, like it's alpha, right? But it's there. This is then followed by coming soon, right? And then that is followed by 2020 is coming soon. This is followed by 2021, where it's coming soon. This is followed by 2022, which is coming soon. And here and there's a screenshot, or like it goes up on the store page, but there's like nothing. And then Microsoft shows off Silksong in June of 2022 at their indie presentation or whatever it was. And they say that everything you see in this presentation is going to be coming within 1 year of this broadcast, right? At which point someone asks the Xbox Twitter account, does this mean Silksong is coming out before June 2023? To which Xbox responds, that is exactly what we are saying.
And that's not Team Cherry, that's Microsoft.
No, that's Xbox. Then in, I think it was May of 2023, or maybe it was June even, Team Cherry makes one of the only update posts they've ever made going, it's not going to make it this year, guys. Sorry, but we're working really hard on it. And that's it. That's the whole story of Silksong.
So
literally nothing other than...
Before that 2023 Team Cherry post, what was the last post from them? Was it from the Kickstarter?
From them, oh God, it was on the Kickstarter.
It was on the Kickstarter.
It was like 2021.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're working really hard and we want to do something special.
Yeah.
And that was like a non-answer.
So it's so like I said, it is a weird situation that you have here, where you have a mixture of obligation in the form of these stretch goals and free content for people. Yeah.
Hold up 1 second. Mm-hmm. There is a detail.
Okay.
The reason they said we haven't been doing many updates is that they said, well, we've been working so hard on the game that we just have trouble finding time to make updates for you guys.
Okay. Okay.
That is
Okay.
ridiculous.
So
That is
yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean, when there are things that happen where like you have to up like oh literally, hey, we have to migrate our entire engine off of Unity or something
That
like,
could be happening. That
right?
could be happening right now.
But those are things where like when communicated, it's like, okay, you understand this is a massive overhaul that is just like you're losing progress. It's not about like wherever you were at and then getting stalled out, right?
Like
Um,
if they came out right now and said, "Hey, because of the Unity nonsense, we are porting the whole game over into a new engine that we are kind of unfamiliar with, so we have technical debt and we're working on it, but we'll keep you updated." Here is one screenshot.
yeah. And so the
People would be fine.
and then what also an issue that happens here is that like in some cases when okay, like let's say Peter Molyneux makes some kind of announcement of some kind, what's your first response? Right? That's not real. That's a lie. Let's wait to hear what perhaps happens closer to the actual release or so. But at least the first or second thing you're going to hear is just not real, right?
So apparently the game has had a projected release date of nearly every quarter in 2022 and nearly every quarter in 2023 and nearly every quarter in 2024, and they just keep pushing it.
And I think the problem is that if they say something, like they genuinely do believe that that's the target they're going to hit and are finding themselves like it's not like, oh, we're just going to lie and say it's this and then we know it's forever. I think they genuinely think they're going to hit those targets because the earnestness that they've generally again had throughout the campaign, throughout the original game and everything carries over here, and you're looking at traits of just never like holding on to something, not quite hitting the perfection that you're looking for, perhaps over refinement, perhaps like whatever the thing is, the attention to detail that made everything so great about that first game is now the problem with putting out a second one.
I
Right.
think
I
that
think these are the same traits on display in two contexts, but one where you have expectation and anticipation and obligations turns it into a negative when you're communicating. And even if you believe in the thing you're saying, people go, but I know you're lying to me now because the thing you're saying, like even if you think you're close to that, if it doesn't come true, then what's the difference than if you were to just lie outright from the jump, you know?
I think that they're trapped by having never given it a date. I think that if they had a date that Team Cherry had to go out and announce was actually not going to get hit, that would probably be very different internally, other than, well, when it's done means when it's done. And
Yeah.
we never no there's no date. So you know what? Redo that whole area. It's not good enough.
So
We'll just redo the whole area.
So this is where someone on the team often there will be someone who will wrangle and gonna go like, hey, we have got to hit things at a point, right? The person who does this is awful in the context of like, hey, KOTOR 2, we got to ship. I don't give a fuck where this game is at. We're shipping. And 14 months later, you get what you get. But in cases like this, that type of person is also necessary when a project is completely gone off the rails and is in development hell. When when you look at like a game like I guess like Cuphead, for example, there is an understanding almost in the insane like level of, well, this is how it's made, this is how it's drawn by hand, this is a team of two brothers and maybe one other person. You can there's an inherent agreement that you're like, yeah, we're just never going to see this, and when we hear about something, it'll be nice. That's great. Everything about Silksong has been this went from being one playable extra character to being feature creep.
A game that's supposed to be twice as big as Hollow Knight.
Feature creep and bloat in good ways because they make good things. But
yeah, they do. They make great stuff.
They make great things, but it's always bigger than anyone asked for and bigger than anyone expected. and that bigger than anyone asked for and bigger than expectations, like it doesn't actually, I guess, mean anything after a certain amount of time when Goodwill gets burnt away. And now we are realizing, I guess, the Goodwill time range is, what's that, 5 years?
Oh yeah. Well, it depends when you start counting, right? Do you count from the Kickstarter? Do you count from the delivery of Hollow Knight
DLC
or do you
2.
count from the end of Hollow Knight's DLC, or do you count from Silksong's announcement?
I guess from the end of DLC 2 is the fairest, calendar you could give them.
That you can go on all those. I think from the end of Hollow Knight's active development is the fairest. Under which case it fails my high school timing test. I've been starting to think about this more and more, and I know I've mentioned it here.
Can you graduate?
If you announce a game and you can do the entirety of high school before that game comes out, development on it is fucked up. You shouldn't be able to get your fucking GED.
I'll take that metric.
Normal.
I'll take that metric. That's fair.
Because that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think emotionally, there is a timeline that makes the most sense, and that is from June of 2023 until now. It has been 1 year since the deadline of the only release date the game has ever had, with no replacement release date. This 1 year since then is the part where people are actually getting really mad, because the game had a implied release, only for them to let that clock run out before saying, oh, no, we're not going to hit it, and then not provide anything else. Right? If that Microsoft show came out and said everything's coming out this year, and within a month Team Cherry was like, we are not coming out by June 2023, then people wouldn't have been like every show of 2023 going, oh, this is going to be, they announced Silksong and it's only got 2 more months to come out. Which then led to, oh, well, it could be any, and they're going to shadow drop it because Hi-Fi Rush is now, and they're partnered with Game Pass, so now everyone's going to think they're going to shadow drop it.
So then
they're not.
So then here's the question, right? Ultimately, is you have nothing but bad news for the fans of the game when it comes to announcements, but it's up to you to choose how to communicate them and how frequently, right? You're never going to say anything people want to hear. What is the best way? What is the best balance between, absolute radio silence, you'll get it when you get it, we're putting our heads down and working on it philosophy, versus constant communication, but ultimately every time you communicate, it's to say that it's sorry, it's not coming yet?
I think that the time for that question is 4 years past. I think what needs to happen now is they need to explain what's taken so goddamn long. Just like we switched engines and we we switched engines and we wanted the game to be really big, and 4 new screenshots, and we're gonna try and get it out by this year, but we're not sure. How long would that take to actually say? Like 15 minutes to get the screenshots?
Yeah, it's a philosophy you're looking at. You're probably looking at someone. You're probably looking at Team Cherry's, like, their design philosophy is probably to minimize communication and just deliver whenever they deliver. And I think so the Deltarune blog posts are a pretty good.
So directly applicable too.
That's a really good alternative version of events here.
Hey, what's going on? Oh, we hired a couple new people and work on chapter 3 is going really well, and we just started the planning for chapter 4.
I am used to making games.
We're done for a year. We're done for like a year on that.
I'm used to making games on my own with just a few other people, like Temmie's there and we just keep it. But now this has gotten big in scope and size. I got to work with a lot of other people. In fact, not only is this going to take some time, but we're hiring. If you have a CV and you want to work, send it over. This means
also,
things are going to take a while.
Picture of a dog.
Done. Yes, 100%. Just a very honest, thing. And of course, Deltarune gets to operate in the space of no obligations, because it's the first. It's like a multi-chapter game, and you got part of it, but there's no Kickstarter goals to hit or any one that's being held up in terms of.
I should also mention that
for this or so.
Let me check on this. Oh wow, these are perfect. So Undertale came out farther ago than Hollow Knight did.
Okay.
came out in 2015, whereas Hollow Knight came out in 2017, right? And Chapter 1 of Deltarune came out in 2018, and then Chapter 2 came out. Wow, Chapter 2 came out 3 years later. Whoa, it doesn't really. Holy shit. Okay, so yeah, things happened.
Took a minute.
And then they happened again. It's been 3 years since that. Is everybody screaming at Toby Fox? Where's Chapter 3? No.
Well, for one,
You're just jorking it to skeletons.
Well, because you got like Silksong Act 1 out, and people got to touch it and go, "Oh shit, I was not expecting this at all. This is cool. Wow, hey, fun. New game. Chapter 1. Okay, cool. We'll see where this goes." You know.
Also, people are mentioning like the pandemic.
But just the thought, like the time between Undertale and the next Undertale thing was not filled with anyone expecting there to be an Undertale 2.
Yeah, absolutely. How many people is Team Cherry? Is it 3 people?
No idea, but
I think it's 3 people.
So actually, another pseudo MDHR situation then, another super minimal team. Sitch would make perfect sense here.
It's 3? People are saying it's 3 people.
Okay.
I don't think the pandemic affects teams of 3 people, 2 of which are family members.
Oh my god.
I don't think that actually affects
if that's
it at all.
That's actually exactly the Cuphead studio then. Like it's the brothers, and then I think one of their wives was like on, like I think literally that was the Yeah. Hire more people with
they're in Australia.
What? Okay.
Just say they got attacked by a fucking animal or some shit. Like
hire more help with what money? with what money? With yeah.
Just say that the drop bears stole the code.
Yeah. So that's it. It's a weird thing every time you kind of start to feel Goodwill turn on something, and it turns faster when expectations are from the moment the last one dropped. It turns faster when there are Kickstarters involved, and it turns even faster when you do not communicate. And this has all 3 of those boxes checked.
I think that so the hire more people thing, I think, is actually kind of silly because that assumes the issue with Silksong is labor. I have heard and talked to many people making a lot of games, and Woolie, you have heard and talked to way more people making way more games. And the gut feeling that I have on this game is that a version of it has been more or less done for like years and years.
Oh yeah, the version that's not twice as big as Hollow Knight has been done for a long time. The version that is double the size of Hollow Knight and continues to be granularly perfected as we go on and as time passes and as suns and moons swirl around the earth, as Harry Potter franchises begin and end, as Lord of the Rings trilogies begin and end, as wars are started and end, etc., as we go through the Duke Nukem Forever time cycle, the Bayonetta 3, etc. Like, yeah, there was the version that could have been delivered on, but that was not enough. And so far, the goal has been to over-deliver. Well,
I feel like feature creep and perfection is what you can point this at.
1,000,000%.
And I think they're running into a second problem. And the second problem is people who aren't way into it. I've forgotten that Silksong exists, and when Silksong gets reannounced or whatever, people will buy it and they'll be like, yay. People who are way into it.
No, finish your point.
People who are way into Silksong and or Hollow Knight and have been following it as such and have the gut feeling of like, well, they must be fine-tuning it to be perfect, means the expectation is that when it does come out, it'll be perfect.
An expectation.
And now they are making a game with people's expectation that it is going to be perfect.
Fuck. Yandere Simulator. Oh, God. There is one X factor here, and that is when you're talking about a team size of that small, this is not so dissimilar from like a mangaka also getting sick or internally losing the spirit or the drive or something going wrong with them in a way that affects their ability to further progress into the game and such on a personal level when things happen, and someone getting into a health or any other circumstance in a, whether you're talking about the Hunter x Hunter creator or Inoue or any of that, things like that can affect a game where it'll stop production to a crawl if one person is the person that this whole thing is hinging on. They're the linchpin.
Right.
And there could be issues happening that they're not going to be public about that are affecting production as well.
That's totally possible.
A larger
Absolutely.
team would compensate for and move around responsibilities, but here you can't really do that.
I think they would, if that was the case, I think they would be totally in the clear under one small condition, and that's that this was a standalone announcement that was not technically tied to the Kickstarter. This game is still technically a way out of date backer reward.
Yep. So
as a result, I mean, I looked over the tiers. There are some people that paid like 1,200 Australian dollars or, you know, $1,000 to back Hollow Knight. Yo, that was like, give them their fucking, give those people their Silksong update.
imagine my surprise playing Hollow Knight, walking into that tomb and seeing zoo bugs.
We did not do that. That was not us.
We didn't put Zubas in the game.
That's the funniest one ever, by the way. That was somebody else.
And I'm
We
like,
don't even know who
what?
it was.
And thus begins the Zubaz Everywhere system, you know?
That's when we knew it had left our hands, that it had gone too far.
Incredible. So yeah. No, that's exactly it. Is take the PR guy you've hired and have him announce that the Sun has commanded that this game not be released.
I would like to. So I don't want to put too close a point on it because I'm sure this guy is really nice, right? But I have found, or rather, I've been linked to the PR and marketing publishing person for Hollow Knight Silksong. His name is Matthew Griffin.
Okay.
He's got 40K followers on Twitter.
Okay.
He is, hilariously enough, also the marketing and publishing guy for Crowsworn, the game that looks just like Hollow Knight.
The other Hollow Knight at home. Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's really funny. And I think there was a comment at some point where Silksong will definitely come out before Crowsworn.
Man, that feeling is so weird when it's like, yo, look at fucking Stellar Blade. Look at this Nier Automata shit. Can you believe how they're cribbing off the notes of Nier Automata? Wait, that's the same music composer? Wait, they're actually linked in a much more direct way than you thought? Whoa.
Oh, should I not have named that guy? It's on his public Twitter. I didn't realize that was a...
What?
I saw folks in the chat saying that I should not have used his name, but his name is right there on my screen and on his Twitter that I follow.
Is that where he tweets the stuff from?
Yeah, it's his 40K Twitter following.
So what the fuck are people talking about?
I don't know. I don't... But I look at this and... I'm like, he's the marketing director, marketing and publishing guy for Hollow Knight, Silksong, and Crowsworn, 2 games that are not coming out and don't have any marketing. So what are you doing?
Is Crowsworn not coming out?
It's just like Silksong in that it has no dates. And no previews and no nothing.
Okay, but it was announced a lot.
But it's newer.
It's newer, so it's got a little more leeway on the track before we make those claims. I don't think we have to put it straight under that's not real. It's never coming out territory.
But why? What do you market it?
Okay.
Give me a screenshot.
Yeah. This and now we fall back into Pat's metrics for that game's real and not coming out being much more aggressive than
Oh, absolutely. Here's the thing, though. To the children in the audience, I was following video games when Duke Nukem Forever was happening.
Sure. Sure. Oh,
And much to my chagrin, that game actually did come out.
I think
Technically.
I think a lot of things get delayed again in earnest, and when things go wrong, and you will eventually see it, and it might be a shadow of itself, but
Yeah.
there's always that possibility. There are things when you look at it the moment it puts a trailer out, like Shenmue Online, where you're like
Oh
immediately,
man, that was like
that's the
man.
number one in my brain. That's the fastest your brain has ever said.
We both had the same reaction when we saw that, right? Where it's like that
This
is a
is
fake
the
game
most
and it's
fake
not gonna
game I've
happen.
ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
I can't believe how not real this trailer
That
is.
was so fucking funny.
Right? So yeah, no, there
And
are
Beyond Good and Evil 2 presentations.
God. There are times when you could just nip that in the bud.
And being informed that Crowsworn has a dev that puts up clips of the game every week or 2 weeks.
Okay, there you go.
So, it is definitely not Marketing Man's fault that game is not being shown up.
Beyond Good and Evil 2 is weird though, because now you're taking all of this discussion, but you're applying it to a giant studio that has put it back in the oven and pulled it out 15 times, trying to figure out what they want it to be.
You talking about Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Yeah, like, and the genre, and then the eras of Ubi's microtransactions, gas games, whatever versions going through. It must have had a million like iterations of that nonsense over time. To the point where you saw some gameplay footage that it was because they had already done the, hey, look, it's you got Jade and Paige, and they're at the car, and they're like, oh, they're doing the little it's about time CG rendered thing, and then they're like, no, people need to see gameplay. So then they did the monkey surfing cutscene,
which was also not gameplay,
and it was not gameplay, and then I want to say, like, wasn't there eventually like they like I think there was something of in game that it popped up at some point, and it was like, okay, we're out of fake things to show you. so now just silence.
I'm not comparing Beyond Good and Evil to like Ubisoft's like long history and all that stuff. I compare Beyond Good and Evil 2 to Skull and Bones, a game that they literally never intended on finishing and were using tax breaks to scam Singapore out of money so that they could have a vacation spot for their Frenchmans.
And promotion scams.
Like, I think Elden Ring compared to Silksong is probably the best example, because Elden Ring didn't show off nothing for years and years and years. And we had a conversation about Elden Ring about how that game feels like it's caught in development hell and stuff like that.
But remember that, remember when Beast Souls was a silent thing that nobody knew what was going to happen? When is it coming? What is it? Is it real? There was a leaked video of like a dude in a Yharnam looking, what was that? Beast Souls. Yeah, but FromSoft also again has the benefit of like the only announcement for an expectation for future projects is fan hype that they're going to keep making games, right? It's not attached to a publicly crowdfunded you owe us thing.
I think Silksong is in a slight degree at the mercy of the history of video game expectations. And what I mean by that is that I can think of 2 games that took way too long to develop that did not have enough of the game being shown off. One was Cyberpunk 2077 and the other was Elden Ring. And my expectation from a long history of playing games has been, if a game takes more than 6 years to come out, it's either going to launch like a busted pile of shit or be wildly beyond my expectations. So if I was working on Silksong, I would feel that I'm stuck in a place where I now have to exceed the expectations, which maybe I can't do. Maybe the game's not big enough. What if we added more?
But everything about Hollow Knight has been about exceeding expectations, right?
Yeah.
So, this almost feels as if, like, what if Sakurai game philosophy was him working on a project on his own, right? As opposed to having all of HAL there with him. Because Sakurai, really just screams the kind of dude that is like, I'm going to put it all in the game. I'm going to never stop putting it. I'm going to put more. I'm going to put more. Dude, you should put the game out. No, I can do more, though. Well, we can do more.
Yeah.
How much can we fit on this cartridge? Invent new tech. Make it heavier.
Oh, here's the thing with Sakurai, though, right? Because Sakurai doesn't trade release date time for content. He just damages his body.
No, yeah, he sacrifices time on his clock.
He takes blood
yes.
and puts it in.
Exactly. He slices and drips it into the code 100%. It's coming from somewhere, but it's he's damaging himself in the process. Make no mistake. Anyway, so yeah,
Don't do that, by the way. It's not worth it.
Nope. But if you decide not to do tell everybody, perhaps.
Yeah,
let them know. Hey guys,
I could bet you they could say we will give you guys one screenshot every 3 months until the game is out, and that would make people be quiet a little bit.
Hey guys, I've blood sacrificed. I've lost at least 7 years of life in the trade. It's kind of like a Death Note rule a little bit here.
But hey, everyone is here.